Hey, welcome back. What in the world is happening on Vashon? Do you want to know? I want to know. We're going to check out the Beachcomber for this week and see what in the world is happening on Vashon. You won't believe it. Okie dokie. Here we go. We're going to cover our top three stories. All right. So first of all, the school board candidates discussed their candidacy. We talked about this last week and they did it on air. I personally would have preferred wrestling to the death. Maybe they strap their arms together and get a stick in the other arm, like some kind of about it, because like I said, I have done no research into this or to find out really. I can see my phone is still on, so shut that off. I've done no research into really the depths of the differences between the candidates, and just a quick perusal through the answers to the questions at this interview shows me I could never tell the difference. For me, it's like wine. I cannot tell the difference in wines. I mean, I suppose I know a better glass when I taste a better glass than a worse glass or something, but all the subtle nuances of the differences between wines, I haven't taken the time to develop that palate. And I have not taken the time to develop a palate to distinguish the difference between these four candidates for the school board. I just don't know it. And the article and the interview did not, for me, show up with, oh, well, this person is definitely going to represent my interest in the community better. I'm not saying I'm sure they're all wonderful people. Really, actually, I am really confident that they're all wonderful people and they all would make great school board members. I just have so little at stake in the positioning of it and the difference it makes. And so if this is the kind of thing that you love and it really matters to you, then fabulous. You should dive into it and check it out. But there is an election coming up on August 1st, and one of these four people is going to be elected, and power to them, right? I guarantee you everyone's going to complain. Okay. That's just what's going to happen. All right. Then in two other pieces of news, which are really way more serious, or in my world, my view, more consequential. Here we have about the treatment center. And I don't know if you've been following for a while, but way back when they first sold this building, the community care building to the Indian Health Board for a rehab center, there was, I've voiced some concerns, right? And I really do hate the NIMBY attitude toward things like this, not in my backyard, is a real problem for, especially when it comes to drug rehab, because I am as liberal as you get with these kinds of things, and do feel like, the criminalization of addiction is a way bigger problem than creates way more problems than actually treatment would provide. So I'm a big proponent of treatment, and yet having a treatment center on an island where there aren't, emergency services, where there's not a world of employment, where there's, limited police, there's two sheriffs that are on the presents a logistical problem. So to not become NIMBY about it and yet be responsible for the logistical problems that it takes, that they're going to need to tackle to be here and be here responsibly, it brought up questions about that. And over the course of the last couple of weeks, there have been several different opportunities for the community to interact with the key players over at the Indian Health Board. And, to a large extent, I'm fairly satisfied with the responses and with, that they knew what they were getting into, including, this push to have 24-hour ferry service, that emergency services, because we don't have 24-hour ferry services. There's a huge gap between, there's a 4 or 5 hour gap in the schedule. And even then the boats will get canceled. There'll be a larger gap. The boats are unreliable. That I've been through this with y'all about the 2-boat to 3-boat schedule thing. It's a major problem. And at least these folks are dealing with that's a major problem, and how they can facilitate that. Or facilitate fixing that, which may have super positive repercussions for the rest of the community. So I thought that's super interesting and a really interesting way to go about it, and good for them. And maybe something great happens there for us. That would be wonderful. Okay. If they get that handled like that. Other elements of this that I thought were really interesting was that the Indian Health Board is combining rehab techniques and rehab programs that are, more traditional in the world of rehab, along with Native American practices. So a sweat lodge, ceremonial spaces, really treating the population that is going to be utilizing the services here appropriately for their heritage. I think that's fascinating to me, and just a really wildly cool idea, and something I hadn't even considered as a possibility. And I think that's I think that's a really great and fascinating thing to be taking on that way. They've had better recidivism rates than any other treatment facility like facilities, which is fabulous. They've had a great track record for having it work. And I think that's just fabulous. I think that's great that they're going to start that, and that's how they're going to do it. They're relating to everyone who participates, everyone there. They don't call them patients, they call them relatives. These are their relatives, their family. And that's how they speak it. That's how they create it. That's what they're doing. I think it's a really, it took me back. It took me aback. Like, hadn't really considered it. I looked at it like, oh, here's a drug rehab facility, and they don't look at it that way. This is a rehab facility for the Native American population in this area to actually have them get back on their feet. And you just can't convince me that jail is the appropriate place for rehab, that drug addiction needs, what we need is more rehab. So I think if it works, it's fabulous. And I'm way more open to having it in this community than I ever thought I would be. And they, what they're saying when they're answering the questions from the public are all the right things. So they're not backing down from their commitment to their relatives, to this working. And they speak like they're going to be responsible for the impact that this could have to help people that both complete the program and don't complete the program, leave the island when they're done. So we don't wind up with a whole bunch of, people that didn't make it through the program stuck on island, living out in the woods. That they're committed to developing those systems. And it doesn't seem like they came into this blindly. It seems like they came into this really thinking it through. So I think it's, I'm not at the point where I think this is a wonderful, great thing for the island. And I think it's a great, wonderful thing for, the drug addicted people that are going to be using the facility. And I think it's got a potential to be a real expression of what it is to heal, what it is to contribute, what it is to make a difference, all things that I think this island stands for. And I think it's got potential, and I'm way more enrolled in it than I was. So a really fascinating turn of events and a really interesting thing that's going to be happening over at VCC. And we'll continue to keep that posted as that goes. And then the third little piece of news, not such a little piece of news, was there's additional charges. So this is sort of a big deal. I don't remember if we talked about this before. Come on. There was a guy that was bringing people up from Mexico and forcing them to work for him in his landscaping company, including the new charge about a woman that he brought up here. They've added that woman and sexual assault charges for trafficking and with trafficking her. They've also added money laundering charges to him. There was a major deal when he got busted here, helicopters, trucks with SWAT looking for him, barging into the wrong house, guns drawn, waking up people that had nothing to do with him. Quite a big uproar, really traumatic, actually, for the people involved in the arrest or the non-arrest when they searched the house, when they went looking at a house that he had been at, that he wasn't at. However, as that's the impact that has what's the word I'm looking for? Has resided? I don't know why I can't think of the word. As the impact of that has diminished, gone down. It's receded. There's the word. My gosh. we're dealing with, that we really did have a guy who was kidnapping people and forcing them into labor on this island. And in fact, the first time that he was taken in about that, a whole bunch of his clients, island residents, clients of his landscaping company, came to his defense and, wrote letters on his behalf. So really no one knew that that these people were being forced into labor, were being forced to work for him. No one really knew that he had kidnapped people, really essentially kidnapped them, and was holding them hostage here on the island and working, bringing them up from Mexico to work in his landscaping company, and had been, violently assaulting people while doing it. It was really not apparent to any of the people he was working for. However, if the government's to be believed, it's very obvious that he was doing this, and he has been sitting in jail till this happens. And I do not know when his trial comes up, but those were new charges. The money laundering and the kidnapping of the woman were secondary new charges brought up. So we'll find out how that turns out. But that is a sort of a very dramatic, very intense, very personal experience for a lot of people on this island that this happened. And I'll keep you posted with how that thing gets resolved. Okay. So those are two fairly heavy duty things, along with, the election of the school board people. So that, some weeks there ain't nothing happening. This week, those are fairly heavy duty little things happening on this island. So if you got questions about what's happening on Vashon, what's like to live on Vashon, what you need to do to get here, anything about, living over here, let me know. That is what I do. That's what I do here. Happy to help. If you're watching this on Facebook, subscribe to the Facebook page, like the Facebook page. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with your friends. Ask me any questions you got. I'm Aaron Hendon with Christine Company, ADXP Realty. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.